Here we go. We are live. Let me just wait a minute or two. Kind of a small group so far today, but of course, we'll leave the waiting room open, and I know we'll get a few more people coming in, if not much more than a few. But I only see a handful, 4 or 5 people on here now. So let's just kind of dive right in. This is the weekly DaaS Sales Workshop, and some of you guys may know my area of expertise is pretty much all geared around the front end of the DaaS product and the AudienceLab product, anything to do with sales, pricing, positioning, overcoming objections. How do I pitch this? Role plays, call audits, and then everything back as far as the marketing, the hooks, the angles, the emails, the ads, the creative we're creating. My weekly workshops and lessons are all geared around that in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes these are always interactive and collaborative. Sometimes they're more lesson based with a Q&A at the end. Sometimes they're more collaborative right from the jump, depending on what you guys are looking for, who attends the call, and kind of what questions or what you guys are stuck with, right? So in a moment, I'm going to go through a couple of resources and give you guys some things. Again, a couple of people on the call, this will be redundant, but I do have some new resources, and one in particular that I haven't rolled out to anybody yet. And it's going to be part of the DaaS process and what we do with onboarding any new AudienceLab members going forward. But I still want you guys to have access, and I think it's pretty powerful and just a good little tool that we can use. So that's one of the things I'm also going to go over. But first thing first, I'm going to go drop this link in the chat. Now, normally I go describe it first, and every week I seem to do this. Somebody asked me for the link as I'm talking about it. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat first, and now I'm going to share my screen and then go through this. Of course, we'll get people that hop in late and I can't see that, and I will repost it again if anybody needs it or joins after the fact. But I'm just going to drop the link there first. That way, as I'm talking about it, 5 people aren't dropping in comments, asking me, hey, Ray, where's that link, right? It's already down there in the Zoom chat right here, and you guys should be able to see or have access to that. Now, really quickly, before we kind of dive into this, if you guys have hopped on the call for any specific questions or reasons or something you want me to go through, again, anything I just mentioned about, you have a question, exactly, you can just raise your hand like Jeremy did, or type a 1 in the chat, and that way I know who to call on, and you can unmute, and I will get into that in just a minute. So I always save time at the end for a Q&A, but I'm going to do one here at the beginning momentarily after I just run through a couple resources as I just talked about. So guys, again, this link is there in the Zoom chat, and I just dropped it. But this is the best document and the best collection of resources that I put together for everybody here that got into AudienceLab to build out a DaaS agency. So anybody looking to resell the data, whether it's to one client or many, many clients, this resource or this document has a lot of resources that are going to help you execute and be successful with that process. So again, number 1 on this sheet, guys, is the Google Doc of me laying out the exact sales process I recommend you build out. Just how I built our AudienceLab sales team here from scratch. I was the initial AudienceLab closer and rep, and of course we've grown over the years and have a full team of reps full-time working that I just oversee and manage. But that exact sales process, the build out, the game plan, the timeline, the expectations, and everything that's included is in this document. Number 2 is a tutorial where I go over that document and just expound or elaborate upon anything that I might have kept in, short definition form for the document format, right? Number 3, again, when it comes to creative, I always like to be transparent. I told some of you guys last week, and I did go in and update some of our newer creative and ad sets that we've added, and some of the newer ads we're running, and I took out some of the older ones that have been shelved or that hit ad fatigue after they had been successful for 3, 4, 5 months, what have you. But this document is showing you guys the current ads that we're running here at AudienceLab, the emails we send out to our list, the LinkedIn messaging that we use, and et cetera, basically all the copy and creative that we are using day in and day out to land our own, data clients here at AudienceLab. So I always love to be very transparent and share that stuff. Number 4 and 5 on my screen, guys, the exact scripts and or framework that you will use in your sales process. I've already built them out for you. So you'll see in the sales process, we recommend a 2-call process, and about 60% of our deals here at on AudienceLab that come from ads or emails, generally speaking, again, about 60% of these close in a 2 sales call, approximately 5 business day sales cycle. Now, as I always say, do we have deals that close faster and 1 call closes? Yeah. Do we have some that go longer than 2 calls and 5 business days? Hell yeah. But about 60% and a good bulk of our deals come right within that sweet spot, I'll say, within the sales process. So number 4, sales call 1, your triage call, there's your script. Number 5, for your actual demo or sales call 2, you utilize that script. Number 6 is a copy of the pitch deck that we provided that you guys, nothing here is branded to AudienceLab. So when you get this, download your own copy, make your own copy, swap out the first slide with your own branding, logo, image, whatever. And then we've just put a short 15 or so slide pitch deck together, showing you how to go present the in-market audiences, the identity resolution super pixel tool, giving you guys a half dozen or a dozen different case studies and results we've seen in different niches and industries. So a good tool to utilize in the demo call. And you'll see kind of where that fits into the framework when you bring up that document. Number 7, I go a little more in depth about the identity resolution pricing, and specifically within the description of this tutorial, which I posted on YouTube, down in the description is the link to our pixel or identity resolution calculator. So if you guys are ever on a call with or speaking to a company or a business and you know they get a certain amount of hits to their website, just by knowing about how many hits they get per month, the current average order value of the product or service, and the current conversion rate that their website converts at, by entering those metrics into the pixel calculator, we can get a rough guesstimate of how much revenue they're leaving on the table every month by not utilizing a identity resolution tool like our super pixel. And then lastly, that last doc, number 8 on my screen, about 15 or 20 calls of my own of closing or forwarding. A lot of times I'll take the first call and I'll forward it to a second call. But whatever the case may be, a lot of my calls, and you guys can pick up the terminology and the verbiage and how each call is very unscripted and just a conversation with somebody that has a problem, and I'm simply rolling out a solution and seeing if it's a good fit. That's very, very imperative for kind of how I run sales calls. I always operate on more relational, solution-based, ethical, integral sales rather than those kind of hard closed, what some people get taught in the remote sales, high ticket world of how to close deals. It's more about treating people right and just doing right by them. And if they have a problem and our solution makes sense, hell yeah, we roll out an offer and make them an offer and see if we can offer them help and a solution and a certain result or outcome, right? If we can do that, we're going to roll out an offer. If not, and they're not a fit, what I do and what I teach my reps to do is we don't even make an offer to that person. We refer them out. Maybe we send some free resources because they're not quite up to the level where data makes sense. A lot of people think they need data, and then you start talking to them and they're a one-man band with no marketing department and they're just sending out cold DMs, 20 of them a day. Like, somebody doing that, a data list isn't going to be a game changer for them. It's not somebody I'm going to go make an offer to. I would just be taking their money and know that they can't get results. And in my opinion, that's very unethical. I guess that's subjective. Everybody can have their own opinion, but I'd love to argue that point if you think that is ethical. That's a story for another day, right? So anyway, here's that document. I know some of you guys joined late, and I already dropped the link down in the chat. A lot of you guys already have this if you've had a one-on-one call with me and gotten all those resources sent over. But let me just, again, go drop this down in the Zoom chat for anybody that joined late or doesn't have this document or, didn't see the initial link that I dropped. So right there, again, down in the Zoom chat is a link to this document. Now, something I just created this week that I'm going to share with you guys, and that has not been shown to anybody yet, and we haven't rolled this out in our SOP, but going forward, this is going to be part of the onboarding process and what we give to AudienceLab clients early on, whether that's the onboarding call or the call with me. I don't think we've necessarily fleshed that out yet. Not super, super relevant. But what I've laid out here is, after getting with all the clients and all of you I've worked with on this call and the countless people not on this call or this session, and more specifically getting with my own tech support and onboarding team, what we looked at is, what are the non-negotiables that are required for success with this program? Again, generally speaking, is there always going to be an outlier of a guy that didn't do this or didn't attend that call and still got results? Hell yeah, but 80 to 90% of the people that have success as a DaaS agency and using and reselling AudienceLab, numbers 2 through 7 specifically on my screen that you guys see here, are very, very relevant and imperative. And I go over a lot of these things when we do the one-on-one THO call, which you see number 4 on my screen right here. But what I found is these are kind of the non-negotiables. Everybody should have our AudienceLab Start Guide, which is number 1 on my screen, Start here, and the link to that. You should have from there, or even maybe prior to that, booked your onboarding call, which gets you your account access into the platform, platform. There's a very specific reason we just don't send access when you pay rather than when you onboard. And that's kind of essential. We've had a lot of people that just paid and they're like, hey, I don't need an onboarding, just send me access. And they're wasting lists. They're not sure how to build audiences. There's just a lot of problems that happen when we did that. And a lot of people building ineffective lists or just not getting results with their audiences. And a lot of times it's because they didn't go through the proper onboarding call and they're just kind of playing around with this software rather than learning how to use it efficiently and effectively. Number three, you guys should all be in the private school community where there's a lot of access to obviously workshops, tutorials, job boards, Adams live, Adams workshops, and a lot of good client interaction. And as we saw in last week's workshop with Adam, he brought in Brandon, who through 5,000 emails closed 27 new clients using AudienceLab data. So, sharing all that stuff, a lot of that stuff is available and accessible in our school community, right? Go through the THO and MVP videos that I shot, and you should be all booking a Trojan horse offer call, which, should really be reframed as kind of your fastest path to cash and building out your AudienceLab blueprint. A lot of people come in, and Sterling was on the call last week, like the day after I think I did his call, and he even chimed in and told another guy that was on that hadn't yet upgraded to DaaS or hadn't yet had a one-on-one call with me. He was saying how that guy's name was Drew, and Sterling kind of hopped in and said, Drew, I'm exactly where you were. I kind of didn't know what I didn't know. I thought this was the product and the service I needed. I kind of jumped all in and bought, and I was kind of lost when I got in. There's a lot of tutorials and content and workshops, and then I had a 15 or 20-minute call with Ray. Very streamlined approach. I know my next steps. I know where to spend my time, and I know what to go execute on. So that's what we really do on that call. After that, number 5 on my screen, guys, if you've done those calls with me, Tamara was a good example of somebody we just did the other day, earlier this week, if I'm not mistaken. And then I send you over an email that has a lot of the resources that I either explained or questions or things you asked about on the call. Hey, how do I get some more support help? How do I get help with audience building? How do I find out how, AudienceLab stands out from other data providers? All those things. And then in parentheses, and number 5 on my screen, access and dive into the DaaS launch book, which is included in that email I send, after that call. And that's what I would kind of consider as the Bible of AudienceLab client acquisition. I mean, it's a very long, extensive, resource-filled, I want to say roughly 49-page document with all kinds of different information, but every trick and every SOP and every example we can give you of how we acquire clients internally, we've kind of put into that DaaS launch book. So it's a very, very powerful and I would say extensive resource, right? Get proficient at building audiences. Very, very important. Don't just come in, sign up to the platform, go to one onboarding session and say, hey, I'm an audience building expert, right? Go through the relevant tutorials in school, which I always say in the Getting Started with AudienceLab tutorial under the classroom section in school, scroll down to Getting Started with AudienceLab, and specifically the tutorials within building audiences, building custom audiences, and testing audiences is where you should be getting familiar, as well as office hours workshops are another great tool. And again, our DaaS agencies that had the most success, they told me, hey, within the first month, I went through those tutorials and I attended office hours workshops regularly, and it really made a big difference in my level of sophistication and becoming proficient at building audiences. So that kind of goes into number 7. Pick out whatever weekly workshops that are relevant on what you're focusing on right now. Are you more getting on sales calls and trying to understand how to pitch this, or you're getting objections, right? Attend these workshops, getting more familiar with the tech side of things and the features and building audiences. Office hours workshops, taking these lists and almost exclusively embedding them into ad campaigns on Google, Meta, etc. Probably want to attend the media buying workshops with our media buyer, Jeremy Garcia, who goes more in depth with that. And then below the kind of required for success, which I have listed in bold on line 8, I think that these additional resources and tutorials below, which a lot of them are in the more extensive DaaS client checklist you guys may have seen in the past and I shared with you last week. And I'll dive into that here momentarily and share that one as well, because I know I have some people on the call that weren't a member or weren't on my workshop last week that probably don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I'll dive into that in a minute. I just don't want to confuse and go back and forth between the two right now. But a lot of the resources that are listed below line 10 on my screen are additional or bonus featured and recommended tutorials and resources that I've seen make a big difference in people's success. So maybe about 3 weeks ago, I filmed a specific separate tutorial after getting asked by a number of you guys, hey, Ray, if you were just enrolled in AudienceLab and were starting your DaaS agency from scratch, and specifically or particularly with this tutorial, I kept it more about the low fulfillment DaaS model where I don't really want to have a full stack agency and run all the marketing campaigns. Tell me exactly what you would be doing to, succeed with that. So I recorded a maybe 16-minute video on that, and then I put all the additional resources and blueprints down below. Like I mentioned how a lot of our clients have success initially getting their own clients I'm talking about, right? Using cold email and LinkedIn outreach. So I give you guys examples of some prime LinkedIn profiles and how I would optimize my profile. I give you trainings on how I would craft my messaging or how I would be very direct, but limited in who I'm adding. I just want to add decision makers with these two job titles in this niche and industry, right? You don't want to go super wide ranging with who you're targeting on LinkedIn. I've found the more streamlined you can narrow it down to this industry and these specific job titles, which we know are usually the decision makers within an organization. That's who I'm always trying to connect with. So anyway, down below in that tutorial description, there's numerous resources that I provided again, for SOPs and examples and exactly how I would execute on that. Number 12 on my screen, again, that's more of my PDOCS lingo, what I would call it, one of my other companies. PDOCS, of course, standing for pains, desires, obstacles, common beliefs, and steroids, also known as attention grabbers, which are the foundations in any good copywriting, any good sales page, and any good marketing messaging that you've ever seen. They're talking about pains or problems. They're talking about desires. They're talking about obstacles, common beliefs, misconceptions about the market, and anything that draws attention to that. A steroid could just be a big industry name that everybody knows. Hey guys, you know who I just filmed a tutorial for Russell Brunson, who's now using, my data platform. That would be a steroid. Almost everybody in this room knows that name, right? So that's something that's just kind of a category king that you might use to get more attention and build more authority within your marketing or messaging. The ECOS framework within my PDOCS stands for engage, assess, assign, call to action, and obligation, which are the 5 foundational steps in every booking funnel I've ever run. I don't care if it was through email to, a conversation. I don't care if it was through organic outreach and DM messaging or through a paid ad. We still got to get their engagement. We got to assess where they're at. We assign a new frame or a knowledge gap in some cases, which again leads into the next one on my screen. We will then put a call to action, which is usually a call on our calendar, and then we'll have obligation. Those are touch point messages to hold them accountable. And that's just an example, right? But there's different frameworks, and I run you through that and give the full eco script so you guys can have it and understand that. I know some of the frameworks and approaches and acronyms I'm using, if you hadn't been following us along, especially that initial brand, you might be totally unfamiliar. So I try to give you the trainings or tutorials that go along with that. Using and creating knowledge gaps, which is the foundational element to really PDOCS copywriting and what led to our success in our first year launching from scratch, doing 1.6 million cash collected and 2.3 million invoiced. It was through knowledge gap analysis and knowledge gap sessions of our own business and how to do those in client businesses, something very few business owners can do. A full tutorial breaking that down there. Of course, the seller resources doc is just included in here. I just popped that already. And then the pitch deck, which is also in that, in that document above. And then, contracts, payment, onboarding templates, all that stuff is located within school under the classroom tab. And specifically school, classroom, you scroll down, we have one that just says contracts and templates or something like that. And we show you the 2 master templates that almost all of our DaaS clients use. You can go in there, see which one's a better fit for you by watching the quick little tutorial, and then download the copy of it. We have what's called an SOW agreement, statement of work, and we have what's called an MSA agreement, a master service agreement. So small little tutorial in there telling you the difference between each one, which ones you should use for which business model, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I think this is a really good checklist to have. Anybody that wants to utilize this and just make sure you've done all this stuff. A lot of you guys on this call have probably done everything, up through maybe number 6 or so on the screen, depending on how long you've been in the program. But I doubt everybody has access to everything. So again, let me go grab this link and go drop that down in the chat for everybody. And then I'm going to get to a couple questions, and then I'll cover the other checklists that I talked about that some of you guys maybe that weren't on the workshop last week or may not have seen the more in-depth DaaS client checklist that goes through a little more. I will dive into that momentarily. But right now, that Google spreadsheet has just been posted in the chat. And let me go ahead and call on you first, Jeremy. You've had your hand raised for a while, and I've been blabbing for a good 20 minutes straight. So go ahead, Jeremy. If you're still with me, or did I bore you? Jeremy, you there? Going once? Going twice? Not sold. All right. Well, we'll wait for Jeremy to come back. I'll just put a message in there. Maybe he walked away because I was blabbing. If anybody else has any other questions, things they want me to cover, or just things they'd like to share, just drop a 1 in the chat so I will know to call on you. And again, I'm going to save time for a Q&A at the end. Oh, you're back, Jeremy?
Yeah, that stupid interface, man. I couldn't figure out where the button it disappeared behind my other 75 tabs, and then I couldn't find it.
Only 75 today, huh?
I think, man, might be a little higher. Right?
So what do you have for me?
So this is back to what we talked about prior. So I'm getting ready. I've got this guy who it's a lending institution. They want to find lenders, small business loans, right? So businesses looking for loans. So I ran that list, felt pretty good about it, got like 500,000 hits, right? And this guy I'm communicating through Slack on another platform, and in another group, and he's pressing on what the prices are going to be. And so I don't know. One of the things I thought, and I guess I'm just throwing that out there, but then one of the things I thought is and I know you probably have this in one of your trainings. I apologize, but this guy just kind of came across unexpectedly. But to show him that the leads are good, do you have a way to do that the standard way to where you go, okay, I'll give you this test run, 10 leads, or do you use something like that for them?
I don't recommend it. I would do that as like my last case downsell if that was the only thing that was, keeping him a little hesitant or apprehensive from moving forward. But I really, really don't like to do that. And even when I do that, I at least cover and get a base. Hey, man, what I'm going to do for you, Jeremy, is I'm going to let you see the data. Now, I need $500 minimum to cover my hard costs and at least the data and the list that I'm going to pull for you. Let me show you the quality and the data that we can come back with. And at that point, you can discuss, if you want to buy data from me in the future, whether that be per list or per lead or per booked call. Now, Jeremy, again, that really depends on how you want to position it. I mean, last week you had sent me over some generic, or I shouldn't say generic, but some overall proposals on pricing for kind of set monthly retainer packages, right? You had different prices and different tiers for different industries and depending on the features they want. So you can keep going that route, right? You can
I'm just worried. Yeah, and I'm just worried I'm going to go either way too low or too high for this guy. I don't want to scare him off, but then again, I don't want to do anything, foolish by giving them information that just gets way on.
Yeah, and that's a normal kind of pros and cons and kind of debate in your head. So for your first couple clients, especially, I'd rather go too low than too high, right? You've already incurred the cost that you're paying per month to AudienceLab, so at least recoup some of that and start to build up trust. I always say I don't recommend this, but if we want to go with like a proof of concept campaign and show them, hey, Jeremy, let me just give me a couple of weeks. Let me put the pix on your website, or let me build you your first list, or let me give you a few leads and show that how it works. I'm still going to get some type of, one-time fee to cover my time and the data that's going to be pulled. So I'd say, hey, we can do a performance-based compensation where I just charge you a base rate of $500 for my setup and service fee. I go in and I start to build the list. And only after I show you the quality or the quantity of data we get, at that point, we discuss what type of price compensation we want to go forward. And you can go a flat rate per list. You could go per lead. You could go per booked call. Again, I do have a training on that. It's what was sent over. There was 2 tutorials, and I think you watched it, Jeremy. You might want to refresh. But when you first book that first call with me and the onboarding team or whoever sends that over after you first you pay by your sales rep, you get into my support team, you get your onboarding call, then they send you resources to book with me with that booking link. There was 2 links prior to that. One says the MVP module and the other says the THO module. The THO one, I go more into depth about the different pricing and which ones I've seen work best in each niche and industry. So I've seen per lead work best with more larger volumes, like when I'm working usually larger volumes of people, e-com stores, but lower overall pricing, more physical products. I usually sell back just by lead. More service-based companies and higher ticket services, real estate, roofing, things along those lines. It's usually per actual booked call. That's what they're happy to pay for, and we can charge a higher premium for that. The last one, occasionally I'll partner on, and I usually only do this with like high ticket coaches or consultants, people charging like 10K plus that don't necessarily get a lot of traffic, aren't spending a lot of money or effort on, whether it's paid ads or whether it's just, traffic through a Facebook group or through an email. They just don't have a whole bunch. What I do with them is, hey, Jeremy, what I'll do is I'll build you a list of your in market clients, right? Mr. Coach, let's just say you have Jeremy's Business Accelerator 10K coaching program. Hey, this is what I'll do. I'll build you a list, or let's say you have that and you do have a website and you get about 1,000 people. Again, not much. I'll slap my super pixel on there. I'll resolve about 40% of your bounce traffic or your anonymous traffic or bounce visitors, I should say. Stay about 400 people. Then I'll run a very specific email campaign to each person. Hey, we saw you had interest in Jeremy's Business Accelerator. He's actually running a free masterclass right now where you can opt in, yada, 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 or book a call to get a one-on-one thing. So Jeremy, only when that lead raises their hand and wants information and wants to attend your masterclass or get that call booking, and then only once you actually get on the call and you close them into your 10K backend package, you kick me back 15% of each closed deal. So I might operate on that type of performance basis. It really depends on the niche and industry and the business owner's foundations. That's why I think the crucial part of this in the sales process and what you need to get down, Jeremy, and anybody else watching, especially early on until you kind of figure it out and know how many leads you're providing and how many deals it's leading to. Once we have those numbers and metrics, it's a lot easier to build out a game plan. But early on, you need to get with the client and be like, hey, Mr. Prospect, in an ideal world, how many leads could you handle per month? Cool. So how do you plan on retargeting them? Do you know how to weaponize and monetize this data, or do you want me to do it? And you really got to understand, am I going to do all the full stack agency work and charge, per appointment? Or, do I just want to work with much more established brands and be a pretty hands-off data agency and just provide it? So these are all the conversations we have to get better at, or not necessarily get better at, but just get comfortable with asking the right questions so we know what to recommend or suggest at the end of the call.
Okay. All right.
So again, I think you've already, you and I were talking in voice notes, and I always try to answer you guys when you have questions like this. Jeremy hits me up pretty regularly with stuff, right? And we were talking a little about this, and you showed me like you chat GPT'd and looked at the industry and what they're charging per lead. And again, those metrics, you got to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So what Jeremy pulled up in the niche of the industry he was looking at through chat GPT was, I think, $150 to $300 per verified lead was the suggested pricing or something along those lines. Now, again, what it's referring to there, a verified lead means somebody that already saw your content and opted in. That's a little different from a cold, I don't even want to say cold, but from an in-market intent-based first-party data lead. That's not necessarily verified, and they didn't opt into this guy's product or funnel or knows nothing about their company. So those leads are they're priced a lot differently, right? And you also got to think of the economics of it. This client says they can take on 10,000 leads per month. Let's just say, hey, in an ideal world, I'd love to have 10,000 leads per month. Well, if you try to go sell those at $150 per lead, do the math. What the hell does that come out to? A $100,000 a month account? Like, nobody's going to really pay that. It makes no business sense for them. That's why, again, for just leads I am generating off of resolved identities, off of a super pixel or an in-market list, but I have kind of a number, how many they want. I usually charge about 65 cents per lead, just flat rate. And then I tack on another 40 cents per lead if they want me to do the activation, meaning the email campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. So, Jeremy, let me just pull out my calculator in this case. And let's say you ask that business owner, and again, just so this makes sense for everybody, Jeremy had said he pulled this list and he's got over 500,000 contacts. And he was asking me some very good questions for newcomers or something that's not really described in every tutorial. He's like, when I get a list this big, should I give them all to a client? Number one, hell no, very rarely. Like, think about it. Do you think your client could really handle and market to and reach out to 500,000 leads per month? Do you think they have the bandwidth to do that? Number one, very few companies, if any, that I know of do. I had a great example about, we're probably going back about 2 years now, 18 months to 24 months ago with this lady, Tina, and she ran a company called thecreditbureau.com, right? And they were looking for anybody that were looking for, bolstering up their credit, people with poor credit that were, applying for some of that type of stuff was one of their avatars. There was one other one, but basically, long story short, she's like, Ray, I just want everybody in the whole US that searched credit repair in the last 30 days. So when I put that in, my list was similar to Jeremy's. It had over 500,000 people. And I was thinking the same thing as you, Jeremy. So I reached back out. I'm like, Tina, how many leads can your company handle in an ideal world per month? Ray, we'd love to see about 10,000 come through. So I'm not going to give her a list of 500,000. Number one, she's never going to get through that and come back and buy another list off me. Number two, if she can only get to 10,000 per month, by the time she gets to month 2 or month 3, or lead 20 to 30,000 on that list, they're going to be dated. By now, they was going to search credit repair 2-3 months ago, right? So it's not even going to be up to date or valid data. What I did is I took that list of 500,000. She told me she needs 10,000 per month. I segmented out into groups of 10,000 and just sold her those. And she came back and bought 1 or 2 every single month. She actually bought about 2 per month. I charged her a flat rate of $750. She was paying me $1,500 a month to supply 2 lists. She went out and ran marketing, got clients, and would come back and buy another one pretty much every 2 weeks, like clockwork. So again, I try to cater my leads to the and that one again was a bulk, so that wasn't a performance. But even if I was doing that one on performance, and what I was just going into, when I pulled out my calculator, let's say somebody, again, I want to make sure I get the math right with that many zeros and decimal points. Even though I'm pretty good at it, I'm bound to maybe get it wrong. Let's say somebody wanted 10,000 leads at 65 cents a piece. That math is pretty simple, right? That's $6,500. That's still a good chunk of change. So, you were saying, hey, that sounds dirt cheap when it's telling me $150 per lead. Yes, a big difference between a verified opt-in lead and just somebody that's warm in market and might be interested based off a keyword search or, some type of intent they had. So at 65 cents per lead, that's still pretty lucrative for you, Jeremy. All you do is pull the list, take 10,000 out of that 500,000, put it into a Google Doc or spreadsheet or whatever, send it over to him. You get paid $6,500. Now, if you wanted to do the reactivation, I would back on about 40 cents because there's more time, more software, more bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera. So now you're talking $1.05 per lead. That account turns into about 10,500 per month. And again, it's totally based on performance. When I send you the leads, I invoice you, you pay me for them. So, hopefully that helps answer your question or gives you a few other ways to look at it.
Yeah. So no, yeah, I appreciate that. And then, sorry, I think I lost it. Just a lot of information.
Yeah, I'm guilty of doing that. I'm hoping they're not overwhelmed. I'm trying to give you different examples or different cases where I've seen and how I've priced it.
When you say reactivation, we're talking about with using the pixel primarily, correct?
Reactivation, when I say it, it simply just means we're going to take the data. I don't care if it's from the pixel, from in-market audiences, from enrichment, doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. We're going to take it and we're actually going to run the marketing campaigns, meaning I'm going to run the emails, the SMS, the ads. That's the reactivation of the data.
Okay.
So we can get the data and provide it to somebody. And what I want to do ideally, Jeremy, and what most of you guys do, and personally, my own DaaS agency clients, which I don't really work with or sell to brands anymore, but when I did, I wanted to be as hands off as I could. I don't want to run the marketing and the email. I want to look for more sophisticated companies that know how to do that, whether they have a person, an automation, a software, a team, a department dedicated to that could just take the data and run with it and just sell them a per lead or per list or per book call price based off of that. So now the per booked call, if you're going to quote that, usually you have to do the reactivation too, because you actually have to pull the data, send out emails, and only the people that are interested that raise their hand and click on the booking link would categorize as a booked call that you could then bill the client for. So you kind of have to take on the reactivation if you're going to offer, hey, I want to partner on that only pay me per booked call metric.
Okay. And then so I pulled that list. I think it's like 10 days. The original one I just pulled now that got 500,000. Does that give me any sort of indicator as to how much, like roughly how much we might see, like every 24 hours?
I don't know if the list you have gave you any indicator, but what can happen is when you refresh it, it should show you how many you have. So let's say the first list had whatever you said, 528,000. Let's say you refresh it 2 days later, and there's 538,000. You can kind of guesstimate that every business day I get about 5,000 more.
Yeah.
So you can't really tell until you refresh it and you see the new amount added, since the last list.
Yeah, and you don't have any problem as the operator sending them every 24 hours?
No.
Even on the weekends?
I mean, it should. So you can sync it to automatically refresh.
Okay,
I only charge for most of my clients, individual brands and companies. If they're just buying straight lists off me, almost all of them, I send a list on the 1st and the 15th of every month. Most of my clients only need about 2 lists per month, and I just charge them per list. Again, it would be different per lead or per call booking. That would be totally different than what I just said. But if they're just buying lists, most clients only need about 2 per month. And then you could set that same list to sync and refresh, and it doesn't count as a new list every time it refreshes.
Right.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question.
No, that's good.
Great. Georgetta, you had asked, what if they close? How are we to be aware of the call results so we can get the 15%? Yeah, great question. So there's two ways I would track that or go about that. And you got to make sure, again, if I'm to partner with somebody on that deal, it's somebody that I probably know, I don't want to say necessarily warm market, but I know of them, right? Even if it's as an acquaintance, or I've looked into their reputation and I know I can kind of trust them, or I talk to other colleagues in the industry that vouch for the person. I'm a little cautious before I get in those deals. So please, all of you guys, keep the same caution. And I wouldn't offer that to like a cold market per se. But the way I track that is one of two ways. Now, if you have a master GHL account where you can make as many sub accounts as you can and you don't get charged extra for that, I like to build my own separate GHL with that account's pipeline. So let's say I start working with Joe's Roofing, right? Hey, Joe's Roofing pipeline in GHL. Now every lead that comes in, I see tracked, and I can see the sequential order of when the deal goes. Okay, they booked a call. Now they attended the triage. Now they attended the sales call. I see a deal closed and cash collected. So you would have eyeballs on everything because you could manage and create the sub GHL account for that particular brand and opportunity. Secondly, if that's not practical, or you don't have access to that and there's extra cost on your behalf, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But I would make sure they have an existing CRM, which damn sure on our first call before we ever set up this partnership, they're going to give me access and make me admin within their I don't know if it's GHL, right? Any CRM, but within their CRM. And I'm going to set up a separate pipeline that says, in this case, Georgetta's leads. And every lead that books through my ads or my data is going to go into that pipeline. And again, we can track it through their CRM. So yeah, there's got to be some CRM tracking when you're doing performance-based compensation, especially on those back-end closed deals. And you got to either create the GHL or the CRM and give them access, but have control of the whole pipeline, or create a separate pipeline within their CRM and they have given you admin access. Hopefully that answers your question, Georgetta. If anything wasn't clear, feel free to type in if you anything you want me to add to that. Tamara, I have the same question as Georgetta. Yeah, so Tamara, did that also answer your question, or did you have something to add to that? She might have went away too. I know she was on camera now. I don't see her, so she might have stepped away.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
I'm here. Yeah, that's good. That answers the question. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, and those are the two ways I've had the most success. Can you do it other ways? I'm sure you can, but I tell you the two that I've had success. But I'm always either creating the CRM or giving admin access and creating my own pipeline within their CRM. Great. The other thing I wanted to go over and share with you guys again, I know a couple of you guys weren't on last week's call. This is something I don't even know if I've sent to you yet, Jeremy. I don't think you were on my workshop last week, and this is usually the only place that I send this out. And I only do this one sporadically because it can confuse people to an extent. But in terms of resources and checklists and anything I can give you guys to just really, be accountable and double check your work and are you doing everything that needs to be done for success? This is the more extensive DaaS client checklist that I put together. Now, generally speaking, all 18 or 19 lines here will not apply, and you don't have to do all these. For instance, if you're not currently running ads for yourself, number 5 says create ad scripts and emails. Like, you're not going to create ads and scripts for ads if you're not running any ads, right? Or number 8 on this is get proficient with B2B audience. Oh, I'm sorry. It was number 9 on the list is what I meant to read. B2B to C targeting for ad platforms and ad campaigns if you are launching those. So this is really how to get proficient at building your own audience for your own paid ads and not for your clients. Again, some of you guys, that's not an instant goal, or it's not applicable and not what you're doing right now. You would skip over that one if it didn't apply to you, right? So use your own, discretion here, but I'll run through this real quick. Number 1, what we should all do is kind of choose, for lack of a better phrase, I use what's called Trojan horse offer. We have different deliverables within our tech stack, right? We're offering in-market audiences. We can offer enrichments, super pixel, performance-based compensation. So what is my real offer and what real features am I focusing on for my audience? What I found with about 80% of you, it's usually a pretty steady mix between in-market audiences being plugged into ad and marketing campaigns and identity resolution and super pixel if you have a client base or prospects that are getting good web traffic or good traffic to a website, landing page, whatever, wherever they're sending the traffic. So make sure you have a pretty good understanding of what features or what Trojan horses, for lack of a better phrase, that you're actually offering. Do you know what niche or vertical that you're hitting? Am I going after roofers, home services, white collar, IT, right? So niche down. And again, Don't niche down just because that's only who we can work with. Niche down because that's what helps you craft your messaging, your angles, and your marketing and your hooks, right? I would say in marketing, if we're trying to speak to everybody, we're really speaking to nobody. Hey, Ray, I can work with and help every brand and every agency. Yeah, I mean, it's not practical. Number one, it's never going to happen. Number two, when your messaging goes out to them, it sounds so generic and so, just so not intriguing or not specialized to them that they just scroll right past it, generally speaking. So I really pick my verticals or my niches and industries on who I'm going to target more for the messaging and the copy and the marketing campaigns I'm creating. And then if people outside of that see my posts, see my ads, see my emails, and engage and raise their hand and say they're interested, sure, I'll still hop on a call and see if we can help them. But my marketing and my vertical is picked more for my messaging and the marketing I'm going to create, right? Then we get into start writing out some, and these are for ourselves, so we can land clients for our own DaaS agency. I'm not really talking about the process of getting results for your clients quite yet, right? What might we do? We might write out some emails. If we have the budget and the creative and the acumen, we might want to be creating our own ads. Again, I generally don't recommend that for our DaaS clients right off the bat. I've seen dozens and dozens and lots of them get results and get their first clients organically with the email and LinkedIn strategies that I recommend and show you. And I would rather see you guys, again, use your own brain. It's your own budget, your own money, your own business. But I would rather see you guys start running ads out of profit rather than out of pocket. Again, everybody has their own budget and their own, foundations or prerequisites or preferences, right? All those things kind of come into play. Right. So we write out emails, ads, DSL copy. Again, the document here with our current ads, email messaging, LinkedIn messaging, different types of email, long form, short form, newsletter. I gave you examples of all that. Right. Then I sub brand my emails and ads to my vertical, meaning I'm going to speak to roofers a lot different than roofers and plumbers, a lot different than I speak to doctors and lawyers. Right. So we just want to sub brand are we more white collar? Are we more blue collar? Do we want to be more laid back? Like Jeremy, you're a great example with your messaging. I think you did a great job of incorporating your personality, putting a little of your subtle, dry humor, but also your kind of straight shooting, right to the point, non bullshitter. I love that goes and gets incorporated into some of the messaging you sent me, and I could almost see it and hear it as I was reading it. So that's what I mean. Sub brand it to fit your personality and what you want to portray to your market in terms of how they're perceiving, right? Do I want to operate more laid back? Do I want to be very, very professional? And that all kind of equates to the niche in the industry and the vertical we're trying to hit. Then number 6, and again, guys, this is everything I've done and AudienceLab has done for every one of our large DaaS clients that we've seen grow to 6 figures plus per month. And in our VTD offer, which if any of you guys aren't familiar, stands for vertical takedowns. And that's a very pricey 6-figure offer where a customer pays us to go in and build their whole DaaS agency from scratch. All they do is handle the closed deals that we put on their calendar and close deals, right? So this is kind of that exact checklist for VTD clients morphed over to DaaS where we don't do it all for you. I'm just showing you the exact step we do for every one of those done for you clients. So number 6, we begin to create their ads, their scripts, and their emails. We build out a VSL and then use my booking framework that I talked about, the EcoScript, which is in the other spreadsheet I've already shared with you guys today, but as well as this one, getting proficient at audience building. So some of these will be redundant and in the other document, but this is just more extensive of all, step 1 through 18 that our clients and our done for you agencies, if they're doing all these things, if they're doing ads, emails, creating VSLs and landing pages, this is every step that we did kind of in chronological order, right? Get proficient at building audiences because now we need to get ready to fulfill for our clients. If I'm running ads myself for my DaaS agency, I want to use the B2B2C targeting for ad platforms and build my list that way. I probably want to have emails to launch in conjunction with that, whether it's in conjunction with ads, whether it's, separate. I'm not running ads, but I still want to be running emails. And I want to create cold email copy. I want to create different email copy for my warm audience and people that already know me, right? So creating email campaigns. Then we want to generate leads. Again, if we're running ads, line item 11 on this list, guys, what we've seen the best success from about 75% of our DaaS agencies running their own ads to book calls and close deals is utilizing lead forms. That's where we saw the cheapest and highest effectiveness of the leads coming in. Now, is that always applicable? You might be in a niche or an industry where lead forms make no sense and you know that. If so, scrap that and go more to the regular booking funnel and call booking, funnel type or ad type, right? When we go into ads, it gives us different categories. Are we trying to get conversions? Are we trying to get engagement? Are we trying to just get clicks and likes, right? So based on the campaign and the conversion, usually kind of dictates how we're going to build out the rest of that booking funnel. We've just seen lead forms perform the best with the lowest barrier to entry. Of course, now that we've created, emails, we're launching them to cold, we're launching them to warm. We may or may not be running ads. The goal is to number 12, start generating appointments at this point. Could be through LinkedIn outreach and the other avenues I've told you. Again, guys, just very transparent. What we do internally in our areas of expertise, AudienceLab uses 4 client acquisition avenues, right? We're good at paid ads. That's one of what we do. We do cold email and warm email. So email, we do what's called MBPs, mutually beneficial partnerships or joint ventures. And then we do organic outreach. Another area of my expertise and how I got started and how I made my first million was just Facebook friend requests and DMs and creating content. Right now, I have a program and a team of DM setters that go out and are having conversations, with people in other ad tech platforms, people that are struggling with cost per lead, cost per acquisition, rising ad costs. My DM setters are in those groups and in those posts, conversing and seeing if there's interest, and we can, offer a solution to their problem. If so, we book them in. Right. So then we take them to a triage call, which I've already given you the script in the seller resources doc. We take them from the triage call to the actual sales call, number 15. I don't know why the VSL, that one's out of order. I'll go back and fix that later. It should be higher. Maybe I did something and knocked it down. I'll show you. I'll go fix this. So when you guys click on it later, it's in the right chronological spot. But we shouldn't be sending the VSL after the sales call, number 1. So let me just go back and fix the chronological order. That's the only one that's out of order. On that number 14, on that sales call, with what I've showed you and what's in the doc, and you guys have access, one of the tools I recommend is using the pitch deck we provided to present and close on that call. Then we get into contract payments, onboarding templates, which we give you guys access to in school. And what we've seen to have the most success, once somebody pays and agrees and signs the contract, I go right seamlessly there into the onboarding process. I want to book in that onboarding call before I even get off the call that I've collected the money and got the agreement signed. I don't want to say, hey, Jeremy, thanks for paying us. Check your email within the next 2 days. I'll have the onboarding instructions. And they're sitting there kind of twiddling their thumbs waiting. I want them to get going and have next steps already built out. They've already put their trust in us and pulled out their credit card and signed the agreement. Let's get this going seamless. So one of the best way to do that is maybe create a welcome pack, right? As soon as they sign, it's just like an automated page saying, hey, welcome into our whatever, Lux Media, data program. Hey, for best results and next steps, here's the link to book your onboarding call. Here's your guide to make sure that you're getting the most accurate data. Here's the best ways to reactivate it. And we create a little blueprint on how they're going to have success with the data and get them right onto our calendar for potential onboarding. And then, of course, once we've onboarded, once we're pulling their audiences, once we're fulfilling, we get paid, we build MRR, and we just keep fulfilling on the list or sending them over the data. Or if we're running the full stack and the reactivation campaigns and all that, we're doing that, week in and month out, and just building MRR and building out that agency. So let me go drop this link. This is, again, the more extensive and longer DaaS client checklist. And again, very few guys, every one of these 17 or 18 things will be applicable. But whatever is, at least it's a checklist on what you can focus on, what you can begin working on, what you can maybe go back and tweak because, hell, I never created a VSL, or hell, I never thought to run email. I thought I was just going to do ads. Like, I always think the more avenues and the more ways we can hit our prospect, the better. And one thing that's damn sure is if you hit somebody with an ad and then the next day you're in their email, they're going to be thinking, oh shit, how did Tamara get, in my ad feed and in my email the next day? I sure wish I could do that for my clients. And then they realize it's possible by using your database in the same method. You just kind of hook them with that, oh shit, I can, double up and hit my market on 2 or 3 avenues. Right. So when I create retargeting ads specifically of somebody with the super pixels, if somebody's already visited my website, hey, Tamara, we saw you visited, our AudienceLab website here in the last month or so. We're sorry to see you didn't opt in for our free newsletter or book a call with our team. Hey, we have this special one-time offer going on for just our loyal website visitors, 10% off the entire value of the package should you book and need our data plan. Feel free to reach out to our team, yada, yada, yada. Then 2 hours later, I hit her with an email. Hey, Tamara, not sure if that ad at your feed, if not being expecting it soon, but we saw you visit our website and we have this one-time exclusive offer for our loyal website visitors. And they're like, shit, this guy's omnipresent. He's hitting me here. He's hitting me here an hour later. I'm dumb not to look into this, right? So all of those are the things we can be thinking about, and and maybe perfecting, or not even perfecting, progressing at, just getting better. I don't ever look for or expect perfection, but what I do expect out of myself and my team is progress every day, whether that's with, the daily requirements, whether that's with my personal own development and well-being and fitness, whatever that is. And nobody's going to get perfection, but each day we can get progress, which gets us closer to that end goal of perfection. Although I'm always chasing it, I'm never going to be that. But that's what keeps me hungry. I love to chase a goal that I know I can never hit, because it's always going to keep me hungry, and I'm never just going to become complacent that, okay, I reached my goal. Like we all do that with monetary goals. Hey, my first one online was to get to 10K months. If I just stopped and rested on my laurels there, I would not be part of this company and a co-owner of this. I'd be sitting back doing my 10K months and never have scaled or grown beyond that, because I hit my goal and I got complacent and I'm like, yeah, I did it. Let me go pat myself on the back and just stay here, never keep leveling up. Right. So that's what I wanted to go over. Those are the resources I wanted to share. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything else they'd like to add in? Takeaways from this, maybe something that you didn't think of that you could or should be doing? Just any feedback. I always love to hear from you guys. But if you have anything, drop a one in the chat or just put the hand raise emoji on Zoom and I will call on you. You can unmute. And if I got nothing, we'll wrap up here in a couple minutes. Can I get pitch deck? I believe you were sending. So yeah, Tamara, the pitch deck is actually within the seller's resources that I've sent you. It was in the email I sent you, and it was also the first link I dropped on today's call. And let me just screen share just to be very clear, in case anyone else has that question too. But let me go back to screen share. There we go. So, oops, I clicked it one too many times. Within this seller's resource doc that, again, I provided here today, and I sent you in that email after our call, number 6 is that specific pitch deck I'm talking about. So number 6 on my screen, once you click on that, download and make your own copy, and that's where you can go in and make any edits or, add in your own branding, your own company stuff. But the one right in this document, number 6, is the pitch deck I'm talking about. You guys can also access it.
When I clicked your link, I got something different. It does not look like that.
Let's see. Maybe something changed and I need to update the link. I suppose that's possible. I don't really.
Yeah, because I'm getting a YouTube video in number 6.
So what you have to do really quick, if you're watching my screen, hover your mouse over this, right? When I click on it right here, this other link pops up saying canva.com.
Okay.
That's the one you should be clicking on. If you're getting a YouTube video, you're actually clicking on number 7.
Okay. No.
Are you seeing it now? Are you able
I'm
to?
getting it now. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that happens sometimes. You got to actually click on it and then click on the one that populates below it. But yeah. And again, that link is also included in the DaaS launch book as well. If you ever have a problem accessing it here for any reason, check out the DaaS launch book. That same link is included in there. But yeah. Perfect. Cool. Do I have any other last minute questions? JP, hey man, haven't seen you in a little bit. I haven't seen my other group's sessions the last 2 weeks. We've been having some breakthroughs, and Sean asked for you the other day, but nice to see you back here, and feel free to chime in with any questions or thoughts, my man.
Awesome. Well, I came late, so my apologies for not being on time. It's just been a little chaotic here between calls. But I wanted to say very briefly, thank you for putting on a great call. I've seen the DaaS tool previously and prior. For the other attendees and the people watching on the recording, this is a fantastic document. I highly recommend it. I don't have anything other than that, other than to say it's an amazing call. And thank you for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you for the insight and the feedback, JP. I appreciate it. And yeah, JP's what I would call a more sophisticated marketer, great background, understanding data, ads themselves, ad tech, and has been a user of the platform off and on, and then now consistently for longer than most anybody else on the call that I'm aware of. So thank you for chiming in. I like hearing from people that are familiar, that have been using it for a while, and that know the application. So appreciate your feedback, JP. Thank you.
Oh, I did have a follow-up question, which was I sent a message on School regarding the V3 access. I know that this is not the forum for that, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm still looking to get access to that.
You're still in V2?
Yeah, but that's a me problem. That's not your team problem. I just need to follow up and get the logins.
You should connect with Jaden on my team, Jaden Delport. I can send you his, if you're not already connected, I can send you his direct information. He can get you upgraded or just get you seamlessly switched over to V3, and he has the whole SOP. So just hit up Jaden or let me know if you need his contact information. Happy to give it to you. He can walk you through that in 2 minutes.
Awesome. Yeah, I know the flash cut was recent and wasn't too long ago, so I'm not too far behind. Thanks. Thanks
Yeah,
for
and
the
most of the other people
information.
on this call, in full transparency, JP, have enrolled. They've only know of V3, so they don't even know about the prior version. They're all on V3, so you guys don't have to worry. But AudienceLab recently, within the last 60 to 90 days, did a big upgrade of our user interface. Now our features are just more seamless. We used to have separate audience builders, one for B2C, one for B2B. Now that's all found within one tool, and our lists. Our accuracy's gone up, our metrics has gone up with the new user interface and the new data feeds we put in, and the lists populate faster than they did in V2. So those are just some of the differences. What JP's referring to. He's still operating off the slower, older module. So yeah, JP, hit up Jaden and let us get you upgraded ASAP.
Hey, buddy, real quick. Payment terms. Do you accept net
On what are you talking about here?
when you invoice?
When I invoice, depends what type of deal it's on, but yeah, I mean, I usually have a net either 15 or 30-day payment on invoices, 100%. Whatever that agreement, makes sense to.
Okay.
Again, most of the way we bill you guys is different than if I go to an individual brand, but we set up most of our plans on a 28-day monthly recurring billing cycle, because if a month has 28 days or less, which happened to us a year ago in February when it was a leap year and we didn't realize this. We had our billing cycle set to every 30 days and we missed out on about 18 payments in a month because there was only 28 days. So after that, we went back and reset our personal internal monthly recurring billing net payment days to 28-day billing cycles, because shorter months you can actually miss a payment from a customer that you probably shouldn't have just because of an automation or a software setup. But if I'm just building a brand and saying, hey, it's this much per list or it's this much per lead, we've delivered them, I usually do 30-day net invoice. That's usually the standard legal terms on those.
Mm-hmm.
Great questions, everybody. Excellent. So as you guys may or may not know, newer people may not, but anybody that's on these workshop recordings are also posted within school later same day. So I post them within school. We have different little channels. It goes within the sales channel within school. And if you scroll back, you're going to see last week's sales workshop and the week before. I go post them same day every week. Usually takes me about 2 hours for it to convert and me to get it all uploaded, but it'll be there in school probably about 6 p.m. Eastern today. Cool. All the replays are there. The recordings for the other group, JP, I can pull those out for you separate. Just DM me. I have those, I think, in my Fathom internally. Okay, guys, excellent. We will see you all next week. Feel free to reach out between now and then directly if you need anything from me or support. But thank you guys for your participation, for your time, and for your engagement and interaction. We'll see you guys next time.